call to order the school committee meeting for May 8th, 2017. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, we're going to begin with a recognition of a new group that we have at the elementary school. So this year, our new assistant principal, Tanya Duff, has taken a leadership role in forming a school council of students for the elementary school. She felt passionate that we should really incorporate students' voices into the decision-making process, incorporate students' voices into what's happening within the elementary school. And so Tanya has taken the leadership in that, and today we've invited all the members of the Elementary Student Council here to share with us a little bit what they've been doing this year. So we're excited. Myself as a superintendent, I'm excited that this group exists. I'm excited that we have so many students involved, and I cannot wait to hear what they have to say this evening. So please welcome Assistant Principal Tanya Duff and the Elementary School Student Council.
We started student council this year in January, and we have had about 22 meetings so far. And one group meets every Monday, except when we have faculty meetings at our school. And there is approximately 16 students that are on the student council. It's open to grades 4 and grade 5. So I'm going to have the students tell you what they're up to.
Hello, my name is Corinne Clordy, and I wanted to thank you for inviting the Carver Elementary School Student Council to meet with you. Tonight, I will be talking about a project that my fellow members and I have been working on this year. We have created suggestion boxes where kids can give us ideas about how to improve our school. We are also going into different classrooms and informing the kids about the suggestion boxes and where to find them. We put these boxes out in hopes that we can involve the whole student body in making our school better, as well as wanting to hear other ideas about what we could do for our school. I greatly appreciate your time. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Dylan Young, and I am a 5th grader at the Carver Elementary School. We hosted a fundraiser night at the Carver Elementary School, and we raised money for the food pantry. In order to do that, Game Right Gaming Company gave us games, and we could keep 50% of the profit.
Hi, my name is Nolan Blackwell, and I am in the 4th grade. My mom and I are going to use some of the money and some coupons to get some supplies that the pantry needs.
Hi, my name is Colin Reardon. It is always wonderful if you can donate canned goods. It would make someone in Carver a meal and make them happier.
We are planning to host 1,000 canned marts to the pantry with the donated canned goods.
We haven't chosen a date for the march yet. We hope to accomplish it before the end of the school year.
Hello, my name is Robert Peterson. I'm a part of the Carver Elementary School Student Council. In the Student Council, I've been working in the Green Team. The Green Team meets every Monday to recycle all of the paper. We hope to help the environment by recycling the paper. Thank you.
My name is Maggie Turner. My name is Olivia Cornock. This evening, we will be sharing with you what we have been working on, involved in the student council. What we are working in, we are in the process of planning a is a talent show. This talent show will be for grades preschool through grade 5.
The reason we decided to plan a talent show is to showcase the many talents that the students of Carver Elementary School have. We think it will be an exciting event that will be enjoyed by the Carver community.
Thank you for your time this evening, and have a good night.
Anything you want to add, Mrs. Duff?
I'm just so excited that we have a student council over at Carver Elementary School, and working with the kids is really the highlight of my days. We had lunch together today, we recycled together, and we're planning events for the school. Thank you.
I mean, it's tremendous what you're doing in terms of suggestion boxes, fundraisers for the food pantry, development of a green team, a talent show. All those things emphasize the things that we want all students to learn, but specifically what we want a student council to do. When you talk about leadership, suggestions for improvement for your school, community service, and developing school spirit. So I cannot thank you for all the work that you're doing, and we're really excited about having a student council at the elementary school. So congratulations to each and every one of you. Now we would like to recognize you each individually. So I do have a certificate for everybody. So as I call your name, if you can come forward, you can shake everybody's hand and receive your certificate. So Nolan Blackwell.
You know what, we set you up, thank you.
It was tough to go first, buddy.
Thank you, Nolan.
Good job, Nolan.
Corinne Clardy.
Enjoyed your speech.
Olivia Cornock.
Great job. Thanks, Olivia.
Anna Foley.
Good job, Anna. Nice job, Anna.
Ava Freitas. Ryder Holmes.
Great job, Ryder. Nice job.
Joseph Littlefield. Paige Medico.
Great job, Paige. Thank you. Thank you, Paige.
Scarlett Peabody. Robbie Peterson.
Thank you. Nicely done.
Colin Reardon.
Great job. Thank you. Nice job, Don. Welcome.
Ava Ricker. Maggie Turner.
Great job, Maggie. Thank you. Nice job, Maggie.
Natalie Wakis. Dylan Young. and Kaylin Zabriskie. All right, so again, I'd just like to thank and recognize all the members of our student council, Nolan, Corinne, Olivia, Robbie, Colin, Maggie, Dylan. You all did a great job speaking. I know it's very difficult sometimes to come up in front of an audience and speak, and you did a great job. So I'd like to thank you for that. We'd love to have you stay for the entire meeting, but you're also more than welcome to dismiss yourselves tonight if you want to. So thank you very much. Congratulations to our members of our student council, and thank you for all your hard work. So our first agenda item for this evening is the beginning of the reorganization of the school committee. So at this time, I would entertain a motion for the election of someone as the chairperson of the Carver School Committee for this year.
I'd like to make a motion to elect James O'Brien as the chairperson.
Second it.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I think James has been a great leader on the board. I think he's more than willing to listen to everyone's opinions, take them all into account. I think the times that he's filled in as the chair over the course of the last 6 to 12 months, done a great job. So I look forward to having him as chairperson.
I agree.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right. So James, the new chairperson of the Carver School Committee, I'll turn the gavel over to you, and we can switch spots.
He was looking at it.
We'll change the name, but so.
Did you want this?
Yeah, I gotta
So the next step would then be a nomination for vice chair.
I'd like to make a motion for Andrew Swirlavoda, vice chair.
I guess I can second that.
Thanks.
One of the contentions that I've had taking this position has always been that I do have limitations with my career, and being able to be available during the day is not a possibility. So I strongly support Andrew in helping me out in this predicament and being there to be able to represent in situations and work together to make sure that one of us would be there for every circumstance that called for it. And I have full faith in Andrew's ability to do that.
And again, one of the things I've noticed about Andrew and yourself, James, through this is your willingness to listen to all aspects, all points of view, and hear people out, and which is a very good quality for everybody on this committee. So I guess that's it. But I think you'd be great.
So with all that at hand, I'll accept a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye?
I told Gina
Oh,
what
do
to
you?
vote on.
Yeah. Well, she just shut down. Yeah.
Hello, pardon my tardiness.
We're voting Andrew the vice chair right now.
Andrew,
There, I'll take that as a yes.
nice. Yes.
So that's a 4-0.
5. 4.
Stephanie, I will say, though, that definitely, as we go through this, everybody's, well, you've been through one of them at least, but if there is a committee or a subcommittee that you'd like to be involved in or interested in being involved in, feel free to speak up as opposed to waiting for someone to nominate you as we go through this.
Okay.
Just to be sure that, you're into something that you'd be more interested in getting involved with that way. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you.
So the recording secretary would be next. That's usually a nomination because nobody raises their hand for that job.
The nomination is normally the new person. Of course. There you go.
So, Gina, was that a nomination?
I nominate Stephanie.
I'll second it.
All right. You want any discussion in there at all, or are you good to go?
No, that's perfectly
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll tell you later, because I had it last time, so.
No, I'm not worried. But thank you.
As we move on to the subcommittees, we have the policy committee. Again, I think I'll just take interest here if you're interested, as opposed to waiting for a nomination for some of these. So if anyone is interested, fine. If not, then we'll have to.
I'd like to retain my position on the policy committee, subcommittee.
All right.
I'll second that.
I'm doing that also. Did we vote on all of those beyond that? I don't think we tend to vote on them.
Correct. I think we just, whoever wants.
The subcommittees are more of an assigned position as opposed to a voted position. So with any of the subcommittees, it's pretty much if you choose to do it.
So we're not taking a vote on every
You
one?
got it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if I could just say, I have been on all of them. I'm happy to take whatever is left over. If anybody else wants to try them or be on them. I'm happy to do my share of the workload, but I've been on all of them, so.
I will remain on that with you unless anyone else would like to get involved in that at all.
Thank you, Mary.
Yes. The superintendent's evaluation is the chair and the vice chair. The capital outlay committee is the chair. The building committee, I presently am on with Andrew and have been on since its origin, so I imagine we should just stay with that, where we're at with
I
that.
wouldn't see that.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's wise, it's wise, yeah.
It's gone very well so far. You don't hear ahead of schedule and under budget a lot. Negotiations, all of them in 2018, or are they all?
Yes.
So all will be active
It's going to be a busy year.
communications this year, yes. So,
Teacher's contract's the chair and the vice
the
chair?
teacher's contract is the chair and the vice chair. I have to say, though, Andy, as we go through this as a committee, I really want to make sure that we're open and communicative totally in what's progressing in any of these committees, regardless who's representing.
Sounds good.
So the chair and the vice chair will take the teacher's contract, the paraprofessionals. We need 2. Any volunteers? I have no problem being on that, unless there's a conflict with scheduling and timing, but.
Are these mostly during the day?
No, a lot of these will be in the evening.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, negotiation meetings will generally be in the evening.
Yes.
I'll be on it with you then if you want.
All right,
I'm open to wherever you need me to be.
okay. Definitely speak up if you're interested in any of the following, though. So custodians would be next, so that would be Andy and myself for the paras. Yeah. Custodians also requires 2.
I'll take custodians.
Yeah.
I've been on them, so if you want to be on it, go ahead. If nobody will take it, I will fill it. Okay. Sure.
You do that also, Steph?
Sure.
Yeah, so that would be Stephanie and Andrew. Food service is 2.
I'll do any of these if you want. No one's jumping in, I'll do at least 1 or 2 of them.
So we have Andy.
Yeah, if someone wants to fill in, yeah.
Gina, I think that one's
I can
calling
do it
your
too.
name.
Okay.
Unless you want to.
No, choice.
Okay.
So that would be Stephanie and Mr. Cardarelli. Secretaries would be next. 2 there.
That's me. That's me. I'll be on secretaries.
I'll do it with her.
Thank you.
No problem.
Bus drivers all by themselves, so I'll take bus drivers. I'll fly solo.
All right. I've done that one the past couple of times. That one's all right.
Okay.
Excellent. Oh, that all set?
Appointing authority for the Old Colony
Regional.
School. It's the chairperson plus 2 members.
I'll do it.
So will I. Well, unless one of you ladies wants to do it.
It's up to you. I'm fine.
Go ahead, if you want to, go ahead. I can tell. Wanted that.
Okay. So Andrew, Gina, and myself. Well, welcome to the new committees. Get ready for a busy year. With that, we will begin with comments from the general public. Seeing no one jumping up to the mic, comments from the
evening.
How are you?
Hi, everyone. First of all, I just want to take this opportunity. I know Paula Kibbe is not here with us today, but I do want to thank her on behalf of all this educators and paraprofessionals and people that we're very appreciative of all the work that she has done. And also thank you, Stephanie, for stepping up and joining us in this work that we have ahead of us. So we have a strong positive surface area going on right here. It was really exciting to hear about the elementary school students and the student council and the suggestion boxes and the can drives and the talent show. And at the middle high school, we have scholarship fundraising happening. And in the town, we've had, I know Andy did a lot of work at the Shirtlift Park with a lot of community service. And that was, well, it's awesome to see, and not to mention the dance recitals that happen around town. A lot of great things. Yet there's this undercover current wave that is threatening us at this point, not only our school at this point, our people that work for our school district, but also across the town. Currently, the town has opened up a mitigation process for health insurance, and the members, my members, and also the town are really concerned about the increased devaluation of the public servants who support our town. We know that with our budget, we're trying to support, do what's best for our town. However, I think it's real important that we need to make sure that we don't do it at the cost of our members and the people, and in our case, our children. And this is something that I think all of us are having a huge challenge ahead of us. And I just want to make sure that we all aware that there is this undercover wave, really, I'm speaking from the heart, that's really taking over how people are viewing their jobs and how people are wanting to come to work, and the coming up with the budget deficits and the lack of programs that are going to be offered for the students. My goal, just so you know, is to make sure that we create the best schools that our students deserve. And I hope that I have your support. Thank you.
Well, as my first statement to speak for this committee, I would like to say that we not a high-paying career up here, and we do give a lot of our time. And I do not doubt for 1 second that anyone up here is up here for anything other than the best interests of the students in this town, especially considering the majority of us have students directly affected by all of this in the school system, each one of us, or soon to be, in one level or another. So you have our full support in trying to do the best that we can to help this town get to where it needs to be, because we do recognize that it's not where it needs to be. With that, an update from the student advisory representative. She's here tonight. Hello.
Hello. Oh. Hello?
Nice
Is it
to
working?
see you.
All right.
Jenna, how you doing?
Hi, good, how are you? So for our student council update, we are currently planning an art show for students to show and sell their artwork, where all the profits will go towards student council cords. So last year, we had to put our own money into we had 3 seniors, Gigi Tracy, who was our president, Monica Walsek, our vice president, and Mackenzie Arago, who was our secretary. And this year, we have Jenna Wells, you know her, our spirit coordinator, Maggie McCarthy, our other spirit coordinator, Noelle Walton, our vice president, and I think I got everybody. I might be mistaken, but for them to be recognized when they're graduating for our seniors. And other really big news, CMASC, which is Southeastern Massachusetts Associations of Student Councils, our own council president, Sam Santos, ran for a position of CMASC vice president, and she won. First ever in Carver history
Excellent.
to ever do that.
Very nice, yeah.
And that's a huge deal, the first person ever in I think it's 40 years. We went to our 40th MASC conference, so that must be 40 years of sea mask, so first person ever in Carver. So, yeah. I'm also going to be running for president in the fall myself, so
Good luck.
second person. And also, we are going to be having elections soon for our new executive board because the seniors, they only have like 10 days left, so they won't be there anymore. So now we got to choose some new people. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
Jenna, the art show, when did you say when that was, or is it not set yet, or?
I think we were thinking in like May 24th, around there. I think it was on a Tuesday in the cafeteria, and we'll have food and stuff. So I will update you guys on that when I actually know the for sure date. But I know it's before our next meeting, so if you guys are seriously interested in that, I'll email you about that.
Yeah, if you would, please.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
All right.
Is that something that you guys will be sending home through the school, or how are you going to advertise that?
Probably Jupiter grades
Okay.
or announcements through the school.
So it's an after-school event, or you're talking about?
Yes, after
Okay.
school.
Excellent.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shannon.
So moving on to approval of minutes. I'd look for a motion.
Yep. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from April 10th, 2017.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. Any questions at all? Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Moving on to reports from the superintendent.
Okay, the first report that we have this evening is personnel. We have a very small personnel update. We had a resignation of Andrea Kane, a third grade teacher, over this past month. And we've also had one hire. So we'd like to welcome Stephanie King as the new special education teacher at the elementary school. Stephanie is replacing the retirement of Pam Copeland. So those were our two personnel moves since our last meeting in April.
Can I ask a question on that, Scott? Is that the loss of position at the elementary school, was that a retirement that wasn't being filled? I know it was in kindergarten, but weren't we reducing a fifth grade teacher?
Well, so
That was a fourth grade retirement?
we had a third grade retirement and a kindergarten retirement. The kindergarten retirement we're not replacing, but we're still going to have 6 teachers in kindergarten because kindergarten had 7 teachers. And we'll actually talk about this again when we come back to school choice. Then we have a retirement of a third grade teacher, but we're not, how that's being addressed is a teacher from the 5th grade will be moving down to the 3rd grade. And then we'll have 6 teachers at each grade level except for grade 5. Under the current budget, we'd have 5 teachers in grade 5. So there will be a 5th grade teacher who will be moving to 3rd. Andrea's resignation is separate from this. So Andrea did resign her position as a 3rd grade teacher. Not that there's a benefit to that, but there is a benefit to that in terms of when we look at people actually losing their jobs. So one of we were reducing a reading specialist, Susanna Warren, who was also a certified elementary school teacher. So Susanna is going to have the opportunity to move into the 3rd grade position. And that will actually be in our next personnel update for the next month because that just occurred. But we can say that is going to happen. So, it's not great from the standpoint of we're still losing positions, but as a result of Andrea's resignation, one less person lost their job. So Susanna is going to be able to move into that 3rd grade teaching position.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on.
Yeah,
are we okay
Day on
with
the Hill.
Yep, Day on the Hill. On Tuesday, April 25th, I attended the Day on the Hill sponsored by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees and the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. There were 4 featured speakers on that day. The 4 featured speakers were Senator Sonia Chang Diaz, who's the co-chair of the Joint Committee on Education, Representative Alice Peisch, who's the co-chair of the Joint Committee on Education with Senator Sonia Chang Diaz, Representative Jay Kaufman, chair of the Committee on Revenue, and Senator Patricia Jalen, who is the Assistant Vice Chair for the Ways and Means Committee. The speakers highlighted the key legislative priorities of the Massachusetts Association of School Committees and the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents. But in particular, Representative Kaufman outlined the key points of the Fair Share Amendment. Representative Kaufman is the author of the Fair Share Amendment, which is being proposed and supported as a constitutional amendment to the Massachusetts State Constitution that would actually the plan is for that to go to the ballot in 2018. The amendment calls for an increase on state income taxes on all incomes over $1 million. Currently, the state income tax is 5.1% on all income. If the Fair Share Amendment is passed by the legislature this year, and then goes on to the ballot in 2018 and passed at that time, it would establish a new structure for state income taxes. The new structure would be 5% on all income under $1 million and 9% on all income over $1 million. Some people have come to call this the millionaire's tax. So you might hear this in the local news. They'll either talk about, when they talk about the news, they either talk about the Fair Share Amendment or occasionally they'll call it the millionaire's tax, because all income over $1 million would be taxed at 9%. What the amendment states and how this ties to the school committee and to the community is all revenue raised by the tax increase would be dedicated to education and transportation. So that is the wording of the amendment. It would say that all the money that they raise on that extra 4% over $1 million will be dedicated to education and transportation. Now, the amendment doesn't break it out. Doesn't say maybe it's 90% transportation, 10% education.
Right.
Is it 50-50? Yeah. Does the amendment spell it out specifically? It did. And the amendment needs to be passed to get on. To get onto the ballot, it needs to be passed by the legislature this spring. So the process for establishing or changing the Constitution or amending the Constitution of Massachusetts is the bill needs to be passed twice by both houses of the legislature, and then it has to go on to, and then another process goes on to the ballot. It was passed last May by the legislature. They're going to vote on it again this spring. When we were here, they didn't give us a date of when that vote is. Tammy, I don't know if you have an update on when the vote is. They just said sometime this spring. But it passed with 70% support last year. Their sense is that it will pass the legislature with equivalent support, if not higher. And then it's going to go to the people. So then it will be on the ballot in November of 2018 and allow the state to make its determination whether they want to change the income tax structure within the state of Massachusetts. The reason why this was highlighted and the reason why Senator Kaufman, this really became the focus of the discussion, is after this, I'm going to talk about a couple other points they mentioned in terms of improving the ability to fund education within the state of Massachusetts. But ultimately, I think at this meeting, the Association of School Committees and the Association of School Superintendents was saying that this is the best way to enhance education, the funding of education in the state of Massachusetts. So if this is dedicated revenue that tax increase is going to go directly to education, it's probably our best chance to see the support that we receive from the state increase. So I wanted to make people aware of this. This was coming forward. We're more than a year and a half from that vote still. So it's still 18 months out. So assuming that the legislature passes it in the spring, then it will be on the ballot. And I think over the next 18 months, you're going to start hearing a lot more discussion about this in the newspapers, on TV, I'm sure at school committee meetings. I'm sure the MTA will take a point in terms of trying to support it. So sort of like last year, the school committee voted on the resolution against to stop raising the cap on charter schools. And this committee did vote on that. And it was interesting I'm spraying a little bit. I'm going off topic a little bit, but at this same meeting, all four people who spoke, so the four keynote speakers, all said that they felt that the number of school committees that weighed in on the charter school issue, they feel like that fundamentally shifted or had an effect on people's decisions around what happened on the charter school issue when we voted this past November. So I think there could be a similar push over the next 18 months, so I wanted to make the committee aware of it. And really looking at it and looking at our individual situation as Carver, and I'm not going to go into all the details of where I come with that statement, but really looking at our individual situation, I do think this fair share amendment may be the best way to increase revenue or the amount of support that we receive from the state, maybe more so than some of the other things that I'm going to reference that were spoken about at the Day of the Hill.
Yeah, but any kind of impact that is still years.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I don't know the details in terms of implementation. You know, my assumption is that if it's passed by the ballot in 2018, that ballot initiative, that ballot question usually has a date on it of when it starts. My assumption would start the next fiscal year, which would be July 1st of 2019, which would probably play out in your FY20 budgets. That's kind of my thought of the timeline of what would happen with it.
Well, I guess my comment is that how they're going to allocate that. Is their plan that succinct right now? Is it when that money comes in, they're going to know how they're going to allocate?
I have not seen this,
That's
so
gonna take a
I
while.
can't speak knowledgeably about that. So I have not seen a specific plan, if they've laid one out in terms of what that allocation piece is actually going to look like.
Do you have a copy of the?
I do not have a copy of the text amendment, but it's something we can certainly get for the committee.
Okay, thank you.
So if
I
you'd
can
like.
probably look it up too.
Yeah, but no, we can get it for you. So if we can just make a note for that, we'll put it in your background for the June meeting. It may not be we probably won't reference it again at the June meeting as an agenda item.
No.
But I'll put it in the background, you can take a look at it.
Is this text still pliable, or is this?
Well, I assume
something set in stone already?
I would think it's gotta be a little, that's a good question in terms of, they voted the text last year. My assumption is they have to vote the amendment the same way. Through the legislative process, I'm sure people can try to
Amendments?
make amendments to the amendment, but that would kick it back through the process. The sense was that that's not where they are. The sense from our discussion, like I said, it got 70% support, which is, you get 70% support in the state legislature, that's a pretty high.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good. And from Representative Kaufman on that day, he was feeling as if the support this time around with the newly elected representatives was actually higher. And so he was expecting polling right now that, when they go to vote, it may be above 70%. So it'll be interesting. So just wanted to make the committee aware of it, and we'll watch this develop over the next 18 months. Other legislative priorities, I just want to mention 3 that were addressed on that day. These are things that we've spoken about before, and the committee's addressed, but I just wanted to say that it's the same discussion that's happening at the state level. So the first was funding revisions to Chapter 78 in the foundation budget. We've talked about this item a lot over the past few months. Both associations are specifically asking that we push for the revision of the funding formula to have state funding keep pace with the increase in healthcare and special ed costs. They're also advocating a $100 per pupil increase for all school districts for FY18. So we know that's been in discussion a little bit. It was the original number was an increase of $20 per pupil. Now the current legislation that's under discussion is up to $30 per pupil. Mass Association of School Committees is saying $100 per pupil. That was their recommendation last year as well. In the end, when it all shook out in June, it ended up being $50 per pupil. So we'll see where that all goes. And I know we've talked a lot about the Chapter 78 piece. The second recommendation was full funding of circuit breaker. They're specifically advocating for the state to fully fund special education of out-of-district placement costs over $45,000 at 100%. So there is, as we all know, there is a circuit breaker account. So anything that we spend over $45,000 for an out-of-district placement, that money is reimbursed. The advocacy here is that the reimbursement be at 100%, so that if the cost of the out-of-district placement was $100,000, we'd receive $55,000 in reimbursement the next year. On average, the state reimburses the cost at 75%. In some years, they've funded it less than 75%. It's actually, every year it has to be appropriated. So every year there's a decision-making process on what they're going to fund circuit breaker at. On average, and I think the last several years it's been 75, but there have been years when it's been less than 75. And here, obviously, they're clearly advocating that it be 100%. So anything over $45,000, that would be fully covered through the circuit breaker account, which would be great.
Yeah, just a rough number, that'd be about $150,000 back to us.
Additional.
Yep, additional.
Which would be huge.
Maybe on top of the 200,000 we already have from the new reserve account?
This is separate from the reserve account. So we already get the 75% reimbursement.
Right.
So this would be the full 100. So it varies year to year, but roughly, like if we went back to last year's number, it'd be about $150,000 in addition to what we received.
Okay.
Which would help, obviously, tuitions.
Right.
And then the last item of advocacy, and there were actually 12 points in total. I put all 12 points in the background. It's not my intention tonight to go over all 12 points. So I just kind of identify what I thought were the key ones. The last one I want to recognize or identify tonight is charter school funding reform. And this is a hot topic item. So even beyond the concept of a cap on charter schools, it's just how we're reimbursed for them. Currently, the state reimburses districts for the full amount of loss of charter school students in the first year. So the first year a student goes to a charter school, we actually receive full reimbursement for that cost, 100%. So it doesn't cost the district anything in that first year. Then in years 2 through 5, there's a graduated scale where reimbursement rate is reduced to 25%. This funding, and this is the key point, is also subject to annual appropriations. And even under the current formula, it's not been fully funded for 4 years. So right now the formula is you get all your money back in the first year, then there's a sliding scale over the next 2 to 5 years where it falls down to 25% reimbursement. But right now they haven't even fully funded that because that's up for annual appropriation. So the last 4 years it's not been fully funded. So there were 2 points of advocacy here. One, that they advocate at minimal fully funding the account under the current formula. So saying it should be fully funded every single year. And then also even better would be to revise the formula so that districts' losses to charter schools, the amount of money that's lost for charter school assessments is lower. They don't have a specific, they're not advocating a specific plan, so they're not saying, okay, we want to see it be 100% reimbursement for 3 years, then a sliding scale. They're just saying, we need to look at this formula because it's impacting school districts. And we've seen that through our charter school assessment. So our charter school numbers have gone up a little bit, and that assessment has hurt our funding sources. So these are all things that directly impact Carver. Most of them we've spoken about before and spent some time on before, but I just wanted to mention them again, bring them back to the committee and say, at the state level, on the day on the Hill, these were the main issues that we were speaking about, specifically through our, the 4 keynote speakers, the 2 senators and the 2 representatives.
Well, it sounds like at least there's some sort of idea of a direction, which before there didn't seem to be too much.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an acknowledgement, and I think Senator Pacheco did this when he came to our joint meeting, and Representative Gifford as well. I think there's some acknowledgement that the state needs to do some more in terms of supporting education. It's just a question of, very similar to us at the state level, they're facing the same crisis. They're facing the same issues of, if the money comes from one place, it has to come from somewhere else, or we need to increase taxes, or we need to increase our revenue sources. And so now, obviously, the Fair Share Amendment is a way to increase those revenue sources. So they're going to fight that battle over the next couple of years of, how do we increase our revenue sources? How do we reallocate the pie that we have? And obviously, at the municipal level, at the town level, we're doing a similar type of discussion. Any other thoughts?
No.
All right.
So moving on to the school building report.
Yep. So just a couple updates on our 2 school building projects. First, the new elementary school. The project continues to be ahead of schedule and moving forward on or under budget. As an example, at this time, at the end of March, we've only used 2% of our contingency fund for change orders, but we've completed 28% of the project. So that's a good place to be in. So obviously there's a requirement to the establishment of a contingency fund. We've only used 2% of that 28% way through the project. At this time, steel work has been completed, and I don't know if you've noticed, they've begun framing the exterior. So as you drive by the building, you start to see some walls going up. We've also began framing the roofing and pouring some slab floors. Last Monday, we had a walkthrough for teachers at the elementary school as part of a faculty meeting. And I think a lot of them enjoyed that process of being able to walk through the building. So the elementary school last Monday had a happiness day. They had a range of opportunities that they offered teachers to do something that they may enjoy as a faculty meeting. And we had a group of teachers that I went with who went for a tour of the new elementary school, and that was great. And then I've linked the March building report and drive for anybody who wants to take a look at that. But really, things have been, the last month since our last meeting, things have moved. They continue to move along smoothly.
Just an add-on, when you were talking about the contingency fund, that statistic sounds fantastic, 28% and 2%, but PMA was also clear that most of that contingency fund tends to get caught up in the minutia near the end.
It was 2 points. One, the first fair, so actually I had this discussion with them, and we have a weekly building meeting. So I was at the weekly building meeting last Thursday. I actually asked this question. And they said the two places you tend to see it is, like you said, some of the stuff when they get into the detail of the building. But then also they said the other biggest place you see it is when they break ground. Sometimes they said
out.
things have gotten better, but they said sometimes they just find things they don't expect to find up front, and we didn't run into any of that. So we had no ground issues. So as we broke ground and did that piece of it, that piece went really smoothly. So I think, I will make no predictions. I sit here to make no predictions tonight that we won't use our entire contingency fee, but we're on the right path.
It was warmer in February than it will be this week, so it was a kind winter for that fact on it.
And then, any comments on the new elementary school?
Real quick, is the status report on the town website?
That I do not know. I know the status report is on our website.
The building committee website.
And I believe it's on the town website, under the building committee,
really
but
well
I
done,
I can reference that.
So
I can find out. If it's not, we can make sure it's on the town website.
Yeah. I think the general public would want to see it. It's really well done.
Yeah, so you can definitely find it on the Carver.org. You can find that building report on a monthly basis. And when we had Walter Hartley here back in December, and he went through one of them. I mean, if you wanted to have him come back, and the issue about it is when we had Walter do the first one, it was early in the project, so the report just didn't have the same detail of information it does now because they were really early on. Now that monthly report, it's cumulative. It builds on itself each month. So you start seeing a lot more information in there. So if the committee would want, I mean, I could bring, maybe August would be a good time to bring Walter back or someone from PMA just to go through that monthly report again, let the community see it again. August sounds like our June meeting, I know there's already a building agenda. So maybe August would be a good time for that.
I think
Would that be a good?
time for that.
So if Anne-Marie, if we can make a note of that, to invite PMA back to look at the monthly report and that for August, that'd be great. Update on the accelerated repair project at middle high school. We've been meeting on a regular basis with the architect, general contractor, and project managers in preparation for the beginning of the formal work on the project. Work is going to begin in the boiler room, or is planned to begin in the boiler room on Tuesday, May 16th, and on the roof over the high school gym on Tuesday, May 30th. We're excited about to be able to begin construction prior to the end of the school year because it will give us the opportunity to have the project completed by September 1st. The reality is, based on the scope of the project, we felt pretty strongly that it wasn't going to happen between the last day of school and the first day of school. So there had to be an overrun one way or the other. It had to be an overrun at the end of this year or at the beginning of next year. We made the decision that it made sense to have, some work happening in June versus having some work happening in September. So if we meet our objectives, the project will be completed upon our return to school in the fall. But the other point I wanted to note is, as a result of this project, all of our summer programs this year are going to be moved over to the elementary school. We're still going to be allowing some camps access to the fields over the summer, but any of the programs that run in the building will be running at the elementary school because the reality is they're going to be taking out all the windows in the building. They're going to be taking out all the doors. They're going to be redoing the roof. Obviously the roof work's not going to have an impact besides noise, but if you're above the area where they work on the roof, there's going to have an impact from there. So it's going to be an interesting couple of years because this year everything's going to be at the elementary school. And next year when they take down, when we're at that phase of taking down the Governor John and the Earl and K. Washburn buildings over the summer, everything will be at the middle high school. So all the elementary programs will have to be over there while we make that transition. The other piece I want to know about, I said we've had a couple of discussions about color. And I had talked to the committee and had some discussions about doing cranberry for all the windows at the middle high school and entry doors. The architect came back to us and said they really felt like the cranberry might be a little overwhelming. So they looked at it, they started to do some sketches of it, and they said that they felt like it might just hit you a little bit. So they made a recommendation to take a step back from the cranberry and to go to a silver color for the windows and a cranberry for all doors and entryways. The silver color, they felt the cranberry actually in some ways clashed a little bit with the brick we have, because the brick we have is more brown than cranberry, and they felt that. So as they looked at it, they said, we really feel if you do the cranberry that in a few years you might regret that you did the cranberry. So they came back with some silver samples, because part of the concept of giving, we could keep the same color we have. It's kind of a brown right now. It almost matches the brick. The windows really just kind of fade into the brick because the colors are almost the same as the brick. And part of the discussion was, should we have something that livens the building up a little bit? And should we have something that honestly makes a little distinction so people say, hey, look there's all new windows there, because they see a different color. It's obvious that they've all been done because there's a different trim around them. And same with the doors and those types of things. And that's why we had, we got a little excited about cranberry. There's been a lot of discussion about cranberry at the building meetings for the new elementary school. But we, in the end, decided that the architect made some good points. And we took back, and now we're looking at doing kind of a silver color for all the windows, but keeping the cranberry at the doors and the entryways. So especially the two main entrances will be all cranberry to get a little bit of the Carver color and feel into it. And that's all I have for the accelerated repair project, except that we're going to be beginning that work soon. May 16th is going to come quick.
Any questions or anything? Comments?
Brad has some budget transfers and updates actually for FY18 budget.
Yep, so before we get into FY18, I distributed FY16 end of year report audit. This is only for the end of year report. Obviously, it wasn't easy working off of someone else's work, but we got through it, and there was only 3 minor findings, nothing that impacted net school spending numbers. And all they required was just a minor journal entry transfer on the end of year report. And they were cleared up, and they were accepted by DESI. So I really don't want to dive too much into detail on that, but if you guys feel free to email me any questions you have, I'll be glad to answer. Just an update on FY17. As we get closer to the end, it's going to, again, come down to the wire. We made our original adjustments back in, actually, don't say original, my original adjustments when I started back in, I want to say January or February we made them.
The first ones were in September.
But that was before me.
Yeah.
So the first major ones that I made, we are going to come spot on pretty much on utility lines and health insurance, so that's the one good thing. Those lines won't be the negative. But I will say we've been hit pretty significantly with a lot of special ed and homeless transportation bills that we were not expecting. So that line actually, when we made transfers to it, had $100,000 in it. Right now it's projected to finish the year at $165,000 total cost. That just shows you the variance that you have at any given point in special ed transportation and homeless. And homeless too is a cost share, so we're actually splitting 50-50 with other districts for the homeless students. So as you can see, any money we save in, you'll see an FY18 budget, I'm kind of building it back into that special ed contracted services line because it's an expense that we can probably plan on having up there again next year. All right, but I'll give you guys a more detailed information about FY17 and final transfers at one of the upcoming meetings. FY18, if you look at the link, we have a couple minor adjustments to make. Again, I won't go through them all, but I'll highlight a few key ones. There was a stipend for extra classes. We have something in the teacher's contract where if they give up a prep period, I believe, Scott?
Yeah, at the middle high school, if teacher gives up a prep period,
they're paid an extra stipend.
Correct.
Yep. So that was not accounted for in FY18 that we've added in. It's roughly $3,000 on any given year. There was a horizontal movement late that we received, actually 2. We had the teacher savings in the proposal you'll see for the action item. I know last meeting we gave you guys an overview of the special ed program that we want in-house to take back the 4 students. We're actually building that into this budget for your approval. So if there's any questions on that. But what it is, it's adding a special ed teacher, a .4 adjustment counselor, and a full-time paraprofessional in the building to cover those 4 students that we're trying to make back from one of the out-of-district placements. On top of that, I've been able to, with the savings we had in one of the replacement positions that we've actually filled, I was able to move $15,000 roughly over into horizontal movement which was a question mark we had before. We didn't have any dollar amount budgeted. 15,000 is adequate, I believe. This year was roughly 20, but in the grand scheme of things, anywhere from 12 to 15 is a good number. So we're fully funding that. And we're also moving over, let's see here, for the transportation, we are shuffling $11,000, and that's to cover homeless and additional special ed transportation. And that brings that line item up to $116,000. Again, it's going to finish in FY17 around $165,000. So that's something, as we see savings in teaching positions, if we're able to hire in lower than what we budgeted, that's where we want to kick our money, because we know it's going to be an expense that most likely goes over. Any questions on that? No. The agricultural route too, we added on 10,000. That's based on actually the 4 students who applied to both schools did get in. So the tuition was a little bit lower though, so the tuition actually covered the increased transportation cost, and we're going to be splitting transportation with Plymouth. So that was a good ride share that we were able to hook up with.
You said the final ended up being 4 students?
4 students, all 4 who applied. It was 2 and 2.
2
I'm not
to
positive.
2 to Bristol and
2 to Bristol and 2 to Norfolk.
Okay.
They got in. We don't have the confirmation that they're actually going to attend yet, but
Right.
for budgetary purposes, it's all covered.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, thank you. Andy, you all set?
Yep. I just need the motion.
So,
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed line item changes to the FY budget, which include the addition of a middle high school special education teacher, a .4 adjustment counselor, and a paraprofessional. Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion made and seconded. Any comments, questions? All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Unanimous?
And you'll be available, any questions we have after this that come up, we can email it to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just go to the chair back and forth,
All right,
and I will gladly email them out to the committee.
thanks.
Okay, so moving on to the recreation program.
All right, I'd like to welcome Mike Schultz and Mike Santos. I know Mary Ross is here as well from the Recreation Committee. And Jen. So Mike Schultz and Mike Santos have been working on developing a concept for expanding the recreation program for the town. And so they came up with this concept of trying to expand recreation. They brought this to Michael Malinowski and myself. Also last week, they brought it to the Recreation Committee. I mean, ultimately, what they're going to talk about here is a proposal, a way to try to increase the involvement of students within the community in the recreation programs. And obviously, that would be subject to agreement from the Recreation Committee. But just wanted to give Mike an opportunity to talk about this a little bit and begin to publicly look at ways in which we could increase opportunities for our students through recreation.
I don't know if you can put these up, or if you want to put these up, but do they have copies of them?
We do not. They do
Okay.
not have all the, they don't have it back, they don't have the whole proposal.
Okay.
If you
So-
share it with me, I'll put it up.
Okay. So, just a little back history. In my role as athletic director, I do work quite a bit with a lot of the local youth programs in town. And, live in a different town and having worked with other towns, athletic directors and so forth, we are one of only a few, I just shared it with you, programs or communities that don't have a full-time or some type of assistant or part-time rec director or a person that's running the department. As I said from the beginning of this, none of this is in any disrespect to the work that the rec committee has done over the years. It is a volunteer group of, I thought it was 3, but I hear it's as many as 5, potentially. Potentially. And I have talked with different members of the current committee and also those who have been on the committee in the past. So recently I've been trying to connect a lot of our high school teams with the youth programs in town and a lot of conversations are involved, where we're heading and what direction we're going in terms of recreation in the town. So one of the things that we've been talking about is potentially what would it take to get the rec program, more funding, and then a person to sort of take over the position of a rec director. Mr. Neef and I started talking about some ideas, and we brought just the concept of, is it possible to form a rec, a position in town that would be funded and budgeted in the town budget. So we met with Mr. Malinowski, Mrs. Weston, and conceptually came up with this idea of what it would look like. And one of the charges that we were asked to do is to go out and explore what other towns do. Again, none of this was sort of presented as a formal proposal, and none of this was sort of presented to the rec committee yet, because it was all sort of planning and let's figure out what the potential's out there. So we went out and we met with Plymouth, Kingston, I spoke with Duxbury, Halifax, and Rainham as some places just to gather information. And based on the information we gathered, we started to sort of form, again, pre-planning our next step. I gathered this information with Mike. We presented or gave the information to Scott and Mr. Malinowski, and our next step is meeting with the rec committee in town. But conceptually, we started to put together what does this look like based on the information we gathered. So ultimately, most towns have a rec director. They typically have an assistant director. Some are part-time, some are full-time. In our case, we have a rec committee. So if we're looking at this structurally, you'd have a rec director, an assistant director, and you would still, in our thoughts, there would be still a rec board or a rec committee. And then following the tier of people that would be working in a formal department, you would also have seasonal employment, which would be instructors and supervisors, in our case, lifeguards, officials, et cetera. Typically, in most of these these towns, the rec instructors and supervisors are typically your coaches and teachers and students getting involved and helping out. And sometimes volunteers in the community that participate in the programs. In terms of getting information out there, I know we currently have a web page that we use, and a lot of information is on there. A lot of the town programs are on there. One of the things that we found out that every town we spoke to they have a program called myrec.com. It's similar to some of the programs that we run in our school for athletics, like a family ID, or any of our scheduling softwares, but it's designed specifically for recreation programs. It is basically a web hosting site where you can put all your information in, and there's a list of things including scheduling, field scheduling, game scheduling, department information, online registration and payment. It has an email blast component, just a way to capture all your information into one big database. Every town we spoke to uses this, and it would ease some of the challenges of a rec committee or a rec group trying to gather paper and pencil and collecting payments, stuff like that. So that, I think, is a must as we start to sort of reorganize if we choose to do that. The next section was just a hypothetical budget where we basically said we currently have a budget of around $17,000. During the process of having these conversations and trying to explore ways to expand this program, we were allocated some more money through the town meeting, accepting the town budget this year. So this year, moving into this summer, there's an additional $15,000 added to the current budget. I'm not sure where we stand with the current budget, but hypothetically, putting this budget together, long-range planning, if we were to pilot something, our thoughts would be $37,000 would hopefully in the future come out of the town line item budget, so we'd be increasing that budget. And out of that would come a rec position, a director, an assistant director, the annual subscription to the MyRec program, to run the swim program, and also some recreational equipment. The other $15,000 would be basically what a lot of programs in other towns are self-sustaining. Simply, they offer a program that would only run if it was to make money, or it wouldn't run for a loss. So for example, you would offer, say, a cooking class for kids, which is one of the common ones a lot of towns are doing. They would say a minimum registration of 10 students at $50. The instructor fee would be $250, and the remaining money would go into a revolving account. So none of these towns will run programs, and it's sort of one of the disclaimers on all of this information is that we will not run a program unless it hits a magic number. So ultimately, a lot of these programs are self-sustaining over time. So, being very cautious, we would say that if we were to run some of these pilot programs, we hope to generate an additional $15,000 in revenue. Again, long-range planning. I will use Plymouth as an example, not that we are Plymouth, and Plymouth's recreation department is enormous. And it's obviously a much bigger community, but their, and I believe these numbers are close, don't quote me, but their town budgeted recreation in their budget is $400,000, somewhere in that ballpark. And that's sort of the director, the assistant director, all the nuts and bolts. They generate another $600,000 a year in their programs, through programs that they run. And they run, obviously, hundreds of programs. So in similar scenarios are going on in other towns where they're basically running these programs and they're generating funds to offset the cost of their budgets. We started to, look at what are the area groups that we want to pursue or at least provide more opportunities to. This is where we're going to have to really sort of meet with the current rec program and see where we're, sort of where the need is. But basically, we target or we see 3 different groups of people in the community that we want to be able to provide opportunities for. Preschool, which would be the ages 3 through 6, somewhere in there, where a lot of towns are offering these preschool programs. The next tier would be sort of grades, K through 6, so maybe you're 7 through 14 or 15 or so. And then finally, an adult program. One of the things that we are not doing, to my knowledge, is that we do offer programs like pickup basketball in the high school on a certain night. Sometimes they used to be volleyball years ago. But to run a formal program for the adults in town, charge a minimal fee and offer them some opportunities. So these are some of the things we're thinking about in terms of enhancing the current rec program. We did talk about making connections with a lot of the adult community in this town and maybe providing resources or activities for them. Other towns also connect through affiliations, so they have affiliations with local businesses, and a lot of times those are run 80-20 split. So basically you provide a activity, you run it through a program, so Squirrel Run or Village Links or skating programs, and you advertise a program for Carver residents through their website, through your website for their programs, and you get a percentage of the profit. There's a lot of local recreation programs that are running these affiliations through their websites and getting some, one, they're offering opportunities for the adults, but they're also, and the children, but they're also making some revenue. Finally, again, is that connection to the youth programs. Everyone we spoke to, they don't manage the youth programs. They don't want a piece of the youth programs. I think that they struggle with that because a lot of the youth programs, like the youth soccer associations and the youth basketball, those are run by boards and they're run by parent volunteers, and really hard to manage and take that under your wing. But some towns have formed these sort of, they're almost like mini booster clubs for youth organizations. And instead of having a fundraiser for youth soccer and a fundraiser for Pop Warner and a fundraiser for basketball, they come together and they do these district-wide or these town-wide fundraisers, and that goes into a sort of a booster club program that they can help offset the cost of expenditures. One of the things that we're finding at the high school is that there's a lot of use to our facility. And we don't charge our in-town programs a fee to use the facilities. And clearly, it's a wear and tear issue for us in maintaining these fields. A lot of towns have instituted, and we started talking about this currently, But a lot of towns have instituted a $5 or $10 registration fee that would go to a revolving account that the rec department has to manage to help support the fields. So for every registration we take for a youth sport, a percentage of that goes to the rec department to be used to manage and help offset the cost of maintaining the equipment in the fields. I know that some programs in town are currently doing that. I'm not sure all of them are, but that's pretty much a mainstay for other towns, is that in lieu of a building use fee or a field fee, there is a registration fee that gets tacked on to the student's registration. So that was sort of the research we gathered, and that, sort of the stuff we're bringing back to say, can we put this all together and come up with a format or a plan moving forward with a potential rec director, keeping the rec committee as a board that we report to or someone reports to, and sort of restructuring this where I think the MyRec is going to be very helpful in terms of managing signups and registrations and communication. I think we're continually at the high school trying to make this connection with the youth program and the high school program. It's been a sort of a quest the last several months anyway, to sort of bring back that pride of the community and bring back that pride of the sports programs. So that was sort of what we researched and found. The second document, and I won't go into great detail, but we did come up with what this would look like strategically. So we came up with like an implementation plan over the course of 3 years, which this, again, is something that, we're putting this together based on the information we find and sort of how you long-range plan over the next 3 years, what it looks like. This is early phase, early planning, but the implementation plan, and I can show it to you briefly, is really just, it's very similar to the strategic plan that we use for the school district. Matter of fact, I just kept the titles. But we did come up with a basic mission and a vision of the rec department moving forward. Some of the key components would be to operate with fairness, honesty, and the highest ethical standards to sustain a community of trust, facilitate programs that are inclusive to diverse needs of the community, create enriching experiences and opportunities for people to learn, connect, and share. Those are sort of our guiding principles, and I can share this document with you. But basically, the strategic plan basically starts from the spring of 2017. It takes us all the way through to the winter of 2019, or January 2019, basically sort of implementing every component that we think we need to do to make this work, and then continually evaluating where we are every couple of months. What programs did we run? Were they successful? Who have we targeted? What groups? All that stuff. One of the questions that we got early on was that is this a sports program? This is definitely not a sports program. We're looking for an all-inclusive opportunity. Anybody that has received sort of those handouts from Plymouth or Duxbury or Kingston, they're all-inclusive programs. There's a drama component. There's a cooking component. There's Legos. There's yoga for the adults. There's volleyball. Plymouth even does different little excursions and stuff like that. It's just providing a number of opportunities through the recreation department to the community. So if anybody has any questions, you can certainly jump in. We did, and this again is sort of just throwing ideas out there, but we are thinking about when we got to meet with the rec department next currently and figure out, do we have time to offer programs this summer for some of our kids? And this summer is going to be challenging because we're limited to one building. Some of the things we want to offer, we're going to be limited in that building. And, are we going to make it time-wise? Our first step, really, I think, in this process, once we can all kind of get together again and talk, is I think we need to get us set up on myrec.com. I think that's our first step in terms of communication and organization and any type of signups going through there. So that's our next step. I don't know if we're ready to start offering some things, but Mike had put together some ideas for if we were going to offer something this year, potentially what it could look like, just some ideas. Keeping in mind that, we have programs that are run at our school this year. Mr. Rosen runs a basketball program for a couple of weeks. He also runs a science program. There are some tennis programs that are going on either through the rec department currently or through some of our coaches. So there are a few things, but Mike has some ideas about potentially this year.
So for this year, what we were taking a look at would be towards the end of the summer, starting in around August, would be, we got a lot of feedback. Like Mike said, it's the recreation that we want to create, the programs that we want to create. We want to create a diverse group of things to offer. But one that came up was a volleyball, an adult volleyball, like a pickup league, where we'd set up my rec, all the registrations would come through that. There'd be a set fee. And the way it would look would be every Thursday night from 6 to 7:30 at the high school gym, where we just got a brand new volleyball set, a new net on the new court that we have. And adults would come in, we'd set it at a certain age. They'd pay their set fee, and every Thursday for 10 weeks, they'd come in and they'd play an open style pickup where we would have either one of us, or it's a great time to get the students to come in, and they'd collect the money. They could act as referees for the volleyball games. And that would be one program that we would offer for adults. We're hoping to expand eventually in the planning process. This is one that we could do now towards the end of the summer. But adult yoga classes, like Mike talked about, adult tennis lessons. And then you get to the next group, as Mike mentioned before, that middle age group, grades 3 to 8, offering the Lego Club, where same thing, it'd be 4 days a week. You run it for 2 to 3 hours a day. There's different things that they can do with that. Then you get to that younger group, the little kids, that pre-K to second grade area. Same thing where you do the little cooks. Now it's tough now because we'd love to use, we have a nice culinary, department now that we could use and get some cooking classes. But again, that's not just sports, so they're learning math stuff, science stuff, how to measure, proper way to cook, and just kind of get it out there to the community. And we're trying to hit, like I said, different age groups, offer different types of programs where we can create some revenue, take that revenue and put it back into the system.
So did you guys talk about where, I know you had mentioned earlier, but who would be leading those classes? Where I know you mentioned some teachers.
Yeah,
where does that pool come from?
It would depend on the class, obviously, and I think that's where we're still sort of sorting things out. And obviously, there'd be one of the documents that earlier. I do have a link to, as part of our research, I have a link to sort of a pay scale from other towns. But basically, you'd have to have a hiring department that's going to hire these. But typically, for those programs, if you were going to take the cooking program, I think. We would obviously post it somehow, but ideally, Chef Portalance would be somebody that would take a group of kids and run these programs. One of the things we found was that gone are the days of like the 9 to 5 camps. A lot of the camps are half-day camps. Some are full-day camps, but a lot of them are half-day camps, like a 9 to 12 camp, and it's Monday through Thursday typically. And it keeps the cost down, and it's also, the kids aren't burnt out by the end of the week.
I guess where I'm going with that is this like something where parents who might be interested in getting involved or other people, but there'd have to be some kind of requirement or certification as far as Corey check?
Yeah, so that's a whole nother part of this would be the Corey component, and that was in one of our documents in terms of reorganization of the Corys. I don't currently know how the Corys work. This is sort of where we got to get together with the rec department and sort of work together on this and have these conversations. But in some towns, the rec director, the assistant director, or the admin assistant, or whatever is, the Corys are all run through their office. Even their youth program Corys are run through there. It saves them money, significant money, because I think it's like $25 a Cory for some of these organizations like the youth soccers and stuff like that. So reorganization of Corys. So yeah, there would be a vetting of the Corys, making sure the person is able to work with the children and so forth. But these are all things I currently think that they're doing some of this stuff already through their programs, obviously.
Is there anybody from the rec committee that has any comments or wanted to add anything at all? Or sure, Mr. Malinowski, you have something to add? All right, this is dependent. long-term quite a bit on the town and formulating something through a town vote, right? Isn't that?
Yeah.
I mean, the initial steps, what you're talking about this year doesn't require anything in that category, but
This year, the
moving
town
forward-
did approve $15,000
Is that
for
extra?
expanded
Right.
recreation.
And if I could just, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, first I want to just thank the Mikes for the work they've done in a very short period of time. It's been a couple weeks since we kind of gave them this daunting task to look at and try to figure out what other towns are doing. Just for some context, when we started looking at this, going back to setting up some of the budgets for town meeting, is one of the goals and discussions we want to have is Carver right now lacks, recreation opportunities and funding. I mean, we have a few that are being offered tennis and the swim lessons, but beyond that, from an organizational standpoint of the town and the schools, there really isn't a lot of programs that are out there. And as we all know, we have this drug epidemic that's going on, and, one of the ways of keeping kids out of that is keep them active, and we need to do more on that. That all being said is that, there's also been some significant funding from a capital standpoint in the town to further provide recreation opportunities. With the $2 million complex over at the elementary school, that's going to have the 8 soccer fields, the small soccer fields, the 2 softball fields, basketball, et cetera, et cetera. We need to start to plan for that, as well as the potential use of the new football field, soccer field, and track complex that needs to be looked at. So that all being said, back on April 11th, the town meeting approved the $15,000 that you've heard about, which is the seed funding to begin to explore this. And that's exactly what they've done. So part of this discussion may seem a little premature because we haven't ironed everything out and coordinated everything with the Recreation Committee. But this was our opportunity to speak to you, because if we're going to put together a program with just a couple of events, we need to roll that out by June 1st. And you're not going to meet before June 1st, so that's why we're here, again, still trying to develop this. One of the things that we need to continue to work with the Rec Committee is, I think that as the Mikes have presented this, is there needs to be some type of a policy board, which does seem appropriate to continue to use the Recreation Committee to figure out how to play that out and how to explore that. And again, with the big picture of trying to utilize this $15,000 as seed money to test it. And if the test works out this summer, then, let's try to see if we can get some more money next year to further build it up. So that's the whole premise behind this. So again, I want to apologize a little bit that we're kind of rushing this, but we're rushing it because we are rushing it, because it's the only time that we have. 2 other points I just want to make is, I think the MyRec program, which we've already determined should be one of the first things that the $15,000 is used to pay for, is going to help with a lot of oversight in trying to structure how the different programs are working. Again, in preparation of our new complex across the street, in preparation of what we're going to do down at the middle high school, in preparation of just trying to grow the program, that will help us build the backbone of that and allow us to secure funds from all of the members that will help us with some of the maintenance costs that will have to be done in order to keep these facilities up and running. And then finally, just to assist in the Mikes and what they're doing, is that we've offered some assistance from my staff to help them in this first year transition to get this up and running. So we're trying to do a lot, they're trying to do a lot in a short period of time to get a few programs up and running. It's a test. If it's successful, we'll hopefully expand it next year. But again, we're trying to get this up in a short period of time. And that being said, I don't know if any of the members from the Rec Commission wants to say anything, but they're still trying to get their hands around this too, because literally it's happened over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and some of this ties into what the master plan was looking at too.
Well, I don't want to speak for the whole committee, but I appreciate the rough draft approach, because I'd rather know how it's developing as opposed to wait till we get to that end point, because there could be questions about the school or about something that's very relative to this committee.
Well, and obviously it ties to the school committee for a lot of reasons. One, a lot of activities may be occurring at our facilities. Right. 2, the school board appoints members of the recreation committee. So the school committee does have some level of oversight in terms of an appointed power for the recreation committee, as does the board of selectmen. So it made sense for us to make a presentation here, and then we wanted to get some information out to the community in terms of ideas and things that we were thinking about.
Well, and again, I think going back to that, where you could have a lot of community members who are very interested in being involved in something like that. We've got we've got a rich community of opportunity here, and I think more awareness on their behalf is definitely beneficial, without a doubt.
I'm Jen Bogart. I'm the vice chair of the Recreation Committee, and I agree it's nice to have a rough draft approach, but I wish the Rec Committee was involved in any degree with this, because I was not made aware that any of this had happened until Friday, when I got an email from Mary saying, hey, they've prepared something. So I received the documents over the weekend, so I've not had a chance to fully go through them to figure it out, but I know that if this is going to work, the Recreation Committee should be more included in the development. Like I said, I haven't prepared anything, but through conversations with Mr. Milanowski in the past and within our committee, we've recognized and agreed that there's definitely a need or a desire for an official rec department here, because right now we're a committee of 3. We want to do more, but we can't because we have other lives. So we definitely support a recreation department. But I know a main part of why I joined the Recreation Committee was to expand opportunities throughout town for everyone. Previously, I was the chair of the Bike Path Committee. That disbanded, but I said, you know what, let me move into the Recreation Committee when there was an opening to maybe kind of drum up some more support for a bike path in town that everyone can use at all times. Seeing the rough draft, which isn't up there, but I keep looking there. There's kind of no mention of any of that all access for anyone stuff like the bike path. We do events like the egg hunt. We've talked about wanting to expand our just community events throughout the year. Haven't had a chance to do that, but it's on our agenda. There's just a lot of stuff that we would like to see happen that doesn't seem to be in this rough draft. This seems to be very youth sports oriented, and that's a huge component that we'd like to see grown, but I think there's probably a lot missing from this. So I hope to see a rec department move forward, but I think there's a lot not being included. So again, I wasn't prepared for tonight. I made bullet points. I'd happily be more prepared in the future if we can have a discussion with the rec committee. But this was kind of sprang on us.
I would
so.
love maybe a follow-up then, if you are looking at starting this in June, that this is a more in-depth conversation we could have in June when you could be more prepared and more aware. Because if we are, as you say, electing those members of the Recreation Committee, then we do have an accountability here to how that flows.
And then ultimately, I mean, I agree with you 100% in terms of the rec committee being involved in the building of this program and this department, and clearly maybe should have happened earlier on. But I also say that this isn't something we've been working on for 6 months. It really has been a little bit over the last couple of weeks. It's happened fast in terms of really trying to think of, is this something that we can try to do this summer? And maybe that's too aggressive of a time frame. The other thing we talked about, and Mr. Milanowski referenced it, may I'll make it more explicit in terms of, at least what I've thought in my mind, is that the rec department would be the oversight committee. The rec committee would be the school committee, and they would be the direct supervisors of the rec directors. So if that's how it's established and you become the oversight board, you're going to have a lot of say in terms of what types of programs are run, because they're all going to go through you. Really, the rec committee is going to be the decision maker and giving direction to the rec directors in terms of what programs are offered. And obviously, the rec directors are going to bring stuff to the committee and say, this is where I'd like to see it go. I view it very similar to the relationship with myself to the school committee. Ultimately, I serve the direction given to me by the school committee. Now, obviously, I bring a lot of things to the table in terms of this is the direction I think I should go, but ultimately, they're the oversight committee and make decisions and give me direction in terms of which way I'm going to go on specific issues. In my mind, we were seeing a similar relationship that the rec committee would be taking the lead in that oversight and giving direction to the rec directors. And we were just trying to kind of formulate that vision. And maybe we could have done that in a better way, but that's ultimately my goal. So I'm excited about your input, and I love the concept of a bike path. And
It's not a struggle for power at all,
Right.
because the 3 of us have acknowledged we couldn't take it on
Right.
ourselves. But looking at what was
And I mean-
presented, there's just a lot of holes. Like, I would like not everything to have a fee. There's people in town that live here, we all pay taxes. Why does everything have to cost? Why does everything have to be a multi-week commitment? So that's a huge component, but I think there needs to be more offered before it can be an official rec department. And I think if the committee had a chance to brainstorm ideas, or we've already done some brainstorming, but we haven't had any discussions with anyone further. So I think if this is just the starting platform, that's great.
This
We're
is
not
the-
fighting for authority.
Yeah, I
We know
don't,
we can't do it all.
and my
But-
comments weren't directed in that nature. So if you took that way, I apologize. I mean, ultimately, that's a goal. I agree. This is the starting point. This is the launching pad, and we want the rec committee 100% committed to be part of that launching pad and being involved in having those discussions. Mike, I kind of cut you off a little bit. I thought you were going to say something. Sorry about that.
A lot of the stuff in here, I agree. I think that there are tons of holes in this. This is a draft, and a lot of it is conceptual based on taking a program that maybe I know better than maybe some other program, but taking a program like a sports program and kind of flushing it through what it looks like for the rec program. So, yeah, there are a lot of holes, and there are some things that certainly could be free to the community. But I also think that there are some things that, we could pay a small fee for, and it would help all of us. There has been for years since I've been in school, been at the schools, there's been a sort of an informal men's pickup league that runs, I don't know how it runs, but they show up at the high school and they play.
That's how it runs.
And they play on Thursday nights. And every couple of months, one of the custodians says, the men's league is here. And I say, what men's league? So, these guys would not mind, or women would not mind paying a small fee to sort of formally be part of a men's or women's volleyball. Or I just think that there are some resources that we could help generate some funds to support some of our expenses. I mean, we have some significant upkeep on our fields and our courts and all that stuff that, any way we can generate a couple extra funds would be helpful. I do agree that you guys do programs like the Easter egg hunt and stuff like that, I believe are free, and that's great for the community. So not everything would have a fee. There's a lot of holes in this, but I think it's a starting point. Again, we weren't, one of the things I want to emphasize is we weren't doing anything behind the rec committee's back. We were sort of like given a task to say, go out and search what other people are doing, bring us back something, put it on paper, and let's take some next steps from there. The reason why I'm sitting here really is because I think we wanted to present our findings and obviously get the word out to the community that we are considering restructuring or supporting, financially supporting the rec committee in town, which is a good first step for us. So, clearly I think we've got a lot of work to do on this, but our next step is obviously to get together as a group and start working through all this.
Yeah, I'm not poo-pooing on the idea, and I'll step back, because like I said, I wasn't prepared. We want to see a rec department. This just doesn't seem all-encompassing community-wise.
I appreciate you being here and adding your comments to that also. And I think there's just been, with the allocation of the funding, a little bit of urgency that's sort of been put forward to move this forward. And maybe a little bit too much has been stated some. So I think, do you meet, how often do you meet as a rec committee, or how often do you guys communicate with what you do? Is it consistent, inconsistent, or?
It ebbs and flows. With the egg hunt, we met more regularly. Now that the Forestry Field project has kind of gained momentum, we'll be meeting more frequently. I'm fairly new to the committee, and there's been a lot of turnover. So it's a lot of bringing people in and kind of figuring it out. So, no, we don't say we meet the first Tuesday of every month, but we're constantly in contact with each other, trying to set up the next meeting and figure out how to grow as a committee. Because I joined seeing a lot of potential. We have a new member, Kelly. She has already brought in new ideas, so we're already starting more. So we want to see more happen.
So as a committee, could we request that some sort of meeting is put together before our next meeting so that we can come with a more collaborative idea of how we could make this work more effectively for everyone? Because I think everybody's on the same page with the same direction. When I listened to Mike in the beginning, I got no sense that this was a sports idea. It may be portrayed that way a little bit, but that's not the impression that I got from what you were presenting forth. So I think we just need to maybe clarify a little bit of what hasn't been put on the table clearly yet. And I do appreciate what you put forward so far, because it's nice to know where we're going with what's been done. But there is a lot of work to do with it still.
Well, and we would have participated in that too. So don't think we're anti that. This was sprung on me on Friday afternoon. So.
Yep.
I just think this is
I think these two gentlemen sitting right beside you kind of feel the same way a little bit.
I'll take full responsibility for all that.
I think just a little bit of growing pains maybe, and some communication issues, but I think the ideas are great. I think maybe some regular meetings with the rec committee.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Yeah,
our-
that's
our
what we
next
want.
step.
Yeah, it'd be great.
We want-
I'd like to thank all of you for putting your
Yeah.
time in on
Thank you.
this to benefit it, very much so. Thank you.
Before you
Thank you
guys
very
get
much.
up, can I ask a couple questions?
Let me think about that.
Well, I put down some notes and
Okay,
then I let
first.
everybody talk, so I was just, open to all ages, is that your thoughts?
Yes.
Yes, right? So
Um,
at some point, people could bring ideas to you and say, we want to run a knitting class, we want to do
We're
this, and we
thinking
have a
pre-K,
following.
all the way to
all
senior
ages.
citizens.
Okay.
Get everyone involved. There's a lot of opportunities out there for senior citizens where you can go on trips, do different events. What we kind of got was that a lot of them are in their own kind of areas. We want to branch everyone out, kind of get different offerings that they don't have just where they are.
Agree totally. Okay, hierarchy approach as far as if you have baseball commissioners, you have soccer presidents, would that be moving away from that type of structure, or would there, then talk to me about how it would be kind of broken up?
So I asked that question to the current rec directors in other towns, and they said that they don't take on any of the youth sports programs. They, like, for example, Plymouth runs their flag football league, and they run like a K through 2 youth soccer. That is it. They said they tried to bring that group, 2 or 3 places, said they tried to bring the youth organizations together under sort of one umbrella, maybe is the word, but sort of one person would govern it, and it just didn't work. A lot of the people that are running these programs didn't want to give up their power or their ability to have their own boards and their own committees. So like Mass Youth Soccer reports to, or Town Soccer reports to Mass Youth Soccer. Pop Warner's got their own regulations through Pop Warner. Little League has their regulations. So it didn't make sense to sort of take them in. One of the things that we need to talk about currently with the current program is there a way to help regulate with them? Is there a way to help with their query process? Is there a way to help with their hiring of their staff? Is there a way to support them in some way as a rec department? But taking that on and running all those programs would not be something we're interested in, at least from our perspective. I think Mary's the same way there.
Sounds convoluted.
But one of the things that the My Rec program does, and seeing as though luckily we're going to be having more field space in town, is managing the fields. And that's become a big task of the rec department over the years, is just managing who's using the field and when. And I don't know if they use league lineup or what programs they're using, but getting it all in one place, along with our schools into one place, would be something that you would be able to support the youth programs with.
Okay, thank you. Revolving account, would that money that you make, now that obviously would stay in the programs, how do you allocate to field maintenance? Do you allocate, because obviously the current quality of our field is, not top quality, okay, to say the least. But at the end of the day, is that the hope? I mean, at the end, are we going to funnel that money back in so that we can
So
see our
other
fields get to a better
towns,
level?
I asked that question to other towns, and they said that a lot of that revolving money is used to support the program, whether it be buying T-shirts, supporting the staff, like paying staff. Sometimes it's field maintenance. It's a number of different things.
Buses.
Trips, we're going on trips, supporting programs that we don't want to charge a fee for. So that's what all the revolving funds. So I don't know that you can earmark in different places, but you'd need a governing body to sort of manage where that money's going on a monthly basis, checking in. That's sort of where the Kingston Youth, I think they call it Kingston Youth Sports Association, organization. They formed a booster club, and they used the money from the booster club that they raised through fundraising to help support the fields. What I learned was that there's a park over in Kingston, Opachinski Park. It was built by the Kingston department. It was not, Opachinski donated a certain amount of money, but the town built it. When they built it, they said, you guys need to manage it. We're not going to send DPW. You guys got to figure out, as all you groups that are using it, like youth football, youth soccer, whatever, they had the task of managing that. So they formed this organization that now raises about $30,000 or $40,000 a year, and it goes into maintaining those fields. So some sort of organization or some sort of collaboration work between Little League and the baseball and the soccer and the football, maybe that group helps fund the money in lieu of, and then of course, a registration fee. I mean, we're one of only a few towns that I know of that do not do some sort of registration fee for the youth kids that goes back to the town in some way, whether it be $5 or, so a lot of towns charge their youth programs building use fees. We don't have that in our fee schedule.
Two pieces I was gonna add into that is, number one, talking about our current field condition a little bit, part of that has to do with the reality of we couldn't water any of our fields last
Right.
year because we had the water issue.
Where
And
do we
obviously-
currently stand with that?
So the wells are completed. We're going to be in the process of putting down the irrigation lines and then eventually reseeding the fields. The question is whether we're going to be able to reseed. It may not be to the fall because it doesn't make sense to reseed in the summer. But we'll probably be looking at reseeding in the fall, and that was supported through the town. And then we're also going to be redoing. We're going to be redoing the water system at the middle high school as well. So, really 2 years out, we should be in a lot better position than we are now. So the fields weren't always in the state that they were in. The next piece of that is, as Mr. Manowski referenced, we're bringing in a whole new complex over at the elementary school. We're going to have all brand-new fields. So in 2 to 3 years, our field condition is going to be a lot different in terms of what we're going to be able to offer. Now, in terms of supporting those fields, Mr. Schultz is talking about several things, but one thing the committee is going to have to look at is we're going to have to revisit our building use fees. So right now, we do not charge any nonprofit or community groups to use any of our facilities. That's just something we just have to look at. I would say that that's unusual. I know in many districts there is a fee even for youth sports to have their practices and those types of things. But right now we just pay. In essence, the youth sports have to pay for a security guard. They don't even necessarily play custodial unless they're doing a larger. If they're doing, if it's a larger event there, then there's a custodial fee to it. But if there's just like regular practice, someone's paid as a security guard, comes open the building, makes sure people are there, lets them in and out, and that charge is billed back to the youth sports, but they're not charging for using the facility, and many districts do. Doesn't mean the committee is going to choose to do that, but that's something we're going to have to look at as we, I think our whole building use schedule and policy we'll have to evaluate over the next year, especially as we go into the new building.
All right,
And then that money would go right back to the fields.
Okay.
One of the things that, when I started here, is we had the ability to sort of let a field sit over time. So you'd open up one Pond Street field, not the other. The good news is I think that we're doing more activities in town, so the kids are more involved, and we're using the fields more with the flag football program and stuff like that. But we don't have the ability to shut a field down. There's not enough space. So with the opening of new fields in town and the elementary school, we'll get back into that cycle of letting a field sit and recover each year.
Which is very needed, yeah.
And we didn't even talk about the concept of, there's a community preservation proposal, at least doing a feasibility study of doing a new complex for the football field. So it'd be a new football field, new soccer field, and redoing that whole area. So as I said, I think in 3 years, our field position will be in a different place than it is now. I saw
Miss Ross,
I had her
yeah.
hand up.
I think that over the next few weeks, it's our hope to meet with everyone at length, because I think what's difficult for me being here in town for 40-something years, it's such a philosophical shift. The previous athletic director had nothing, no one had anything to do with the fields. You didn't get to go if it rained, but roughly going sometimes. And so the recreation committee's responsibility has always only been for the King property, which is behind the police station, and Purchase Street. So we've had nothing at all to do with any of the other fields in terms of maintenance, upkeep, supervision, scheduling, any of that. And I think soccer uses your fields, but they schedule on your school website, I think. So it's just such a shift in such a short time mentally to start thinking of the whole, all of the fields, and being responsible or overseeing or, so our little funds, we're not going to be able to repair your fields. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where some of confusion, perhaps frustration, whatever, has come, and I'm sure it all can be ironed out with a few meetings over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I'd just like to continue to look at this as a process and keep updated on how it evolves. But it sounds like everybody's sort of on the same page, heading in the right direction. And it's nice to hear. I appreciate it.
One of the, if you don't mind?
Go ahead, sir.
One of the things I was thinking as you were speaking, we're talking about getting the seniors involved as part of the whole town, is one of the things is, as a member of the master plan committee, was one of the complaints they had was they had no room to do any activities, exercises, things like that. If you could incorporate them to try to draw them in to facilitate your programs, I think that would go a long way.
Yeah,
to
there's
getting them
plenty
in.
out there too. I mean, I know I work for the town recreation now, and they do a lot of like the pickleball stuff. You know, it's becoming a big thing that the seniors are really getting into, and with the use of tennis courts, of making your own pickleball courts, we have that opportunity for them to come somewhere now, you know, hopefully in the future and be able to do those events.
At some point, maybe you could invite the people to Council on Aging to.
Yeah, a lot of the communities, we were talking about this, a lot of the communities have some sort of common place within their community, community center.
Right.
And a lot of towns will, send somebody to that group and offer the class there through the rec program. So you send a yoga instructor or you send pickleball equipment to their site, and then they can join it as part of the rec program. And we talked about fees, but I think fees can be very minimal. I mean, in terms of like a 5-day or 4-day drama music class for pre-K through grade 2, we're talking like, $50 for 3 hours a day for 4 days at 12 hours, $50. That's, I think sometimes they're paying more in daycare for that. So I think we have to come to a place where the fees make sense for our community, obviously. But I think sometimes I heard that the tennis program in town years ago was like $5 for like 5 days from 9 to 12, and I thought to myself, they said we lose money. I said, well, you made $5, but you paid out, 40. Yeah, you're gonna. So there definitely has to be a balance. We're not talking like these huge fees, but just a little something that can go towards whatever next program we're looking to run or whatever.
I think it would be good too, like Jen was saying, maybe not everything has to have a fee.
Absolutely.
Right, yeah.
But some might have to.
Yeah.
Yep.
Plus, we'd have a system to waive the fees for those that need.
In the need, yeah.
Right.
So that'd be built into any program we put forward,
That's great.
confidentially.
I think it's great.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Hope to hear more
right,
from that
thank you.
soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up on our agenda is a handbook review from Assistant Principal of the Elementary School, Tanya Duff. Tanya has her second presentation this evening.
So, good evening. I had the daunting task of redoing the handbook, which I've learned a lot. And I would like to thank Mrs. Leatherby and Mrs. Blackwell who helped me with this task. And I do have to apologize because I sent Anne Marie something on Friday, and it was a very quick thing. And I can update it for you because I didn't realize that you all received packets. So it's another learning opportunity for me. So we had some minor changes for the 2017-2018 handbook for Carver Elementary School. We will update all names and dates in the handbook. MCAS will be updated, and we'll remove the transition from park since we've already transitioned. Our emergency procedures on page 27 will reflect our current ALICE procedures. We removed walking in an orderly fashion. We're just going to leave the sentence as, listen to your teacher. The school store will be updated on page 30. PTO is currently running the school store. It's not, Mr. Baldo has retired from that. And we are updating our homework procedures.
So what's the update in the homework procedures, per se?
Well, we are currently looking at all research, and we're having K obviously doesn't have very much homework. They the, take home a project. And grades 1 and 2 will have different homework policies than grades 3, 4, and 5. It's going to be more of like a family activities for home, as well as like your daily reading and your math fact fluency practice. We've removed like the hotline, because not all teachers in grades 3 through 5 have a hotline. We've left it open where the teachers will contact them about how to reach out for homework help.
Is there any time limitations or?
No, there are no time limitations.
Just asking.
Okay.
And if I can just share a little bit.
Oh, good.
Is that already done then? It's just not here, like we can't see what the change is. Is it already completed or is it a work in progress?
So it's a work in progress. We're actually going to be meeting with the teachers prior to the school year, closing this school year, and then it'll be a transition. Because what we're looking at is, we definitely want to look at our current homework procedures that are in our current handbook really aren't what we've been following. All right, so what we've decided is that we absolutely know, and our goal around homework is that they reflect our individual student needs, that when homework is given, that it's planned and it's purposeful for all of our kids, and that's definitely going to vary from obviously K through grade 5, that it's geared to individual needs, individual abilities, that there's a healthy balance for our children and their families, and that within that we recognize that learning happens also when children are engaged in different interests such as play. So we've also been working with our teachers on universal design for learning, and our current first grade team has implemented a homework procedure that's really modeled around some universal design for learning. So they've been able to this year send home to our parents a menu of options for homework. Some of it would be more interacting with a peer or their family, things that could be a game, social, again, the idea that learning happens not just with homework, but it happens with social activities, it happens with interactions, it happens with reading. So we don't want to say we're eliminating homework by any means, but we really need to look at what our children of today need, look at homework practices that have evolved, look at the current research, and it's sort of an evolution.
So the only maybe comment or question that I would have thinking about that you're looking at 1 through 5, is that in that look at what do we need and what do those students need, what's required at the middle school and the high school? Are you preparing them for the expectations that they're going to have them be able to do there? So if everything changes at elementary but everything stays the same in middle and high school, are they going to go there ready to do what they're expecting them to be able to do and have those patterns and ideas to be able to do
So
that?
that bridge, that transition needs to happen. 5th grade is absolutely, we're concerned about that. We want to make sure that, yes, that there still is, that it's rigorous, but we're really making sure that it's purposeful, and that when our children are assigned homework, that that it's being reviewed, that the teachers are providing feedback, and it's timely, and it really supports the instruction in the classroom as well. So it's.
I think you'll get parent support there, without a doubt. But again, that would be just my concern, making sure that any policy that's established is fluid with the expectations as they go through.
Right,
also.
it has to tie in with 6th grade.
Sure.
So it's a work in progress.
I'd love to see an update when we get closer to its finalization.
We'll make sure to get that to you.
Nice.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Any other changes, Anne Marie? Do we need a vote?
So you're asking us to vote on those changes when those changes aren't necessarily securely in place, though? I'm not.
That's the committee, we can have it come back.
Yeah, I would request that we table this until what we're being asked to vote on is completed.
So we can review it.
Yeah.
So what we were proposing to put in our handbook was that, in fact, that for the homework procedure, that it would, because we're having our teachers look closely at that with us, each grade level, so that it would indicate, what was the wording on that? We actually changed.
Well, it was purposeful and meaningful.
Right. All right, so we'll work on that and we'll get back to you.
If you don't mind.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'd appreciate
Which
it.
means that we're going to end up having to do this closer, so in June.
June meeting.
Yeah, so we'll look at the wording, because, again, we wanted time to really look at this throughout the course of even the next school year.
And I agree that
this is not
it's,
something
I
that's-
agree that it's fluid, but I think there has
So-
to be a wording that's, if you want us to vote on something, I think there has to be clarity as to what exactly
Yeah, so
we're voting on.
It would have to be a comparison of current language to proposed change language. So this is how it currently reads. This is the proposal of how it would read next year. And that might be open, it might be fluid, but just to see that distinction of, this is the current language, this is the language we're proposing.
We can do that.
And specifically just for the homework. I mean, I don't think the committee is that concerned about changing the dates in the MCAS, taking Park out of there. We've reviewed the ALICE protocols, actually. We've had an in-depth presentation about the review and the change in the ALICE
Yeah, and
protocols.
I think those are very self-explanatory, all of those changes.
Right, so really it'd just be maybe just on this homework piece, just a comparison of, this is what the current language is, this is what the proposed change is. And then that gives a more sense of what's the language actually going to be that the committee's going to vote on.
We can do that.
Just bring that to June.
Would it help to vote excluding that until brought back, or is it
No, because
necessary?
either way, we have to wait for the whole document to be
So it won't
approved to move
matter.
forward with
Okay.
any kind of printing or anything like that.
Okay.
So.
Are we still printing?
You know what we do is we.
Make a
It's
request.
on the
available.
website,
Yeah.
We ask
Make them available.
folks if they wanted printed, and then we print it for them. But we've definitely minimized the numbers.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right, so we'll come back with June with just that change, just that proposed language change for the homework piece.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to recommendations from the superintendent.
Do we need to make a motion to table that, or?
No, because it wasn't a formal motion to vote the approval of it.
It was just a review.
Yeah, it was just a review of up to this time.
Okay.
And then we'll come back with a review, yeah. Rotation, right. School choice. So at this time, I'm actually only recommending that that the committee approve school choice for the kindergarten level, which has been our process, I believe, for the past 7 years. It's on there. Past 6 years, so this would be the 7th year that we were open for school choice in kindergarten. And at this time, we're only recommending 5 slots, which is a small allotment, but I'll tell you why that is in a second. At this time, 107 students have been or have scheduled registration meetings for kindergarten for next year. The administration is also considering the possibility that there might be a couple of retentions. And historically, we have about 10 students that we're unaware of who register over the summer. So, there's been a lot of communication about kindergarten registration. The reality is, over the summer, on average, we get 10 kids come in and say, hey, I got to go to kindergarten next year. So we have to factor that in. So if that were to happen, if we was to maintain that average this summer, that would give us 122 kindergarten students. I'm proposing 5 because this year we only enrolled 4. And if we were able to add 5 students for next year, that would give us a total kindergarten class of 120 students. I'm sorry, I said that wrong. 127 students. So based on what we've registered, what we believe is going to come in over the summer, some possible retentions, 5 school choice students, that could give us a kindergarten class of 127 students. Next year, we're only going to have 6 teachers. That was part of our budget process. So at 6 teachers, that would give us an average kindergarten class size of 21. We could expand beyond that. You could look at 10 students possibly. So we went back and forth. Ruby and I went back and forth between 10 and 5 students. 10 students would put your average class size up to 22. Might put some variables in. But the reality is, our major source of our school choice kids was Plymouth. A lot of our kids were coming in from Plymouth because Plymouth did not have full-day kindergarten. But Plymouth now has full-day kindergarten, hence us only having 4 kindergarten students this year. So last year, I think we opened up for 12 slots, and we only got 4 applications.
And what's the
for kindergarten.
current kindergarten class size right now?
This year's
Yeah.
is actually similar. It's like 125, 126.
But there's 7
There's
classes.
7 teachers, only 18. It's about 18 kids a class in kindergarten. So we're going to be increasing our kindergarten class size.
And have any of the other cuts affected the kindergarten classrooms?
Yes, so we're also, the other cut was we reduced the paras. So the kindergarten paras, right now we had full-time paras, so we had 2 part-time paras who were equivalent to a full-time para in each kindergarten classroom. So they had full para coverage. So next year, we're only going to we reduced that number in half. So based on our budget reductions, we'd only have a half-time para in each kindergarten classroom. So the possibility of these 5 school choice slots is increasing the class size a little bit, which we don't think is extending too much, up to 21. But that's also based on only having a part-time para instead of a full-time para in all the kindergarten classrooms.
So meaning a half a day, they're either there for the morning or they're there for the afternoon.
Correct.
Or something to that extent. So that person is in a kindergarten classroom with 21 to 22 students by themselves for a good chunk of the day.
If not a good chunk, half. So if we filled, that's assuming we filled the roles and we actually got all those projections play out of that we get 10 additional students over the summer, but on average we do. That we fill 5 school choice slots, that the administration does, a couple of those retentions actually occur. So there's a couple of variables we're looking at there.
Before we keep the dialogue going, I'm just going to make a motion. I'm going to move that the Carver Public Schools open 5 school choice slots for kindergarten for the 2017-18 school year.
Motion's made and seconded, so any discussion?
Now we can read. I didn't want to cut you guys off.
No, we're okay. Go ahead.
No, I didn't want to cut you guys off. That's why I was waiting on it. But
Do you have a question though, or a concern?
no,
Or
you
a
guys
comment?
were the open dialogue. Just now, I kind of filled in my questions. They were just class
So-
size and
So
was $5,000 for.
yeah, it's $5,000 per student. And right now, this year we have, as of April 1st, we had 19 school choice students enrolled in the district because some students stayed. The majority of students stayed. The breakdown is we have 11 students from Wareham, 4 from Plymouth, 1 from Plimpton, 2 from Middleborough, 1 from Halifax, 1 from East Freetown as our current school choice population. So it seems like the largest proportion comes from Wareham. For kindergarten last year, we did receive 3 of the 4 students were from Wareham, and 1 was from Middleborough, I believe. So where before it used to be Plymouth, but the Plymouth kids wouldn't stay. They would come for full day kindergarten, then go back to Plymouth for first grade. Obviously, a couple Plymouth students stayed because we have, I just said the number, 4 Plymouth students enrolled. But that over time, to only have 4 of those Plymouth kids stay when they've been the majority of the kids who did school choice, shows that in general the Plymouth kids went back to their district. I do think, ultimately we do have to be cognizant of class size and the elimination of the paras, and that's in terms of the school choice issue. Even at the elementary level as a whole, I don't think we can look at the possibility of increasing our class sizes based on our current space within the building. I do think school choice is something the committees may have to look at further as we go into the future. So right now the recommendation is only the 5 slots. The reality is as an additional funding source, we may have to consider looking at school choice maybe at the high school level or the middle school level. Middle high school has the space to have more students, and so it's something we're gonna have to consider in the future. But it's not a current recommendation. But ultimately, right now, those 19 enrolled students bring in $95,000 to the school district. Our projection would be hopefully, we haven't confirmed that all those students are returning next year. Generally, looking at this past history, the majority of them probably will. So if we can add a few more students on, that would increase, the intake from school choice up to maybe possibly $120,000 for the school district, that was taken into account for when looking at and building next year's budget.
What was taken in? Was there any estimation taken into account?
We put 75,000. So the goal is you really should have, a district our size, I keep repeating myself, really probably should have about 100,000 in reserve in school choice. And that number, right now, we're looking at carrying over 25,000. So if we undercut next year, it just keeps building that reserve up a little bit again. Does that answer your question?
Mine, yes. Yep, thank you. Andy? Anything?
Well, I'll go through you, Mr. Chair. This is Scott.
Yeah.
The staff, with the increased size, you feel confident they can handle it with the decreased para presence?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, there's going to be 6 kindergarten teachers. If we enroll 5, we're talking about adding 1 student per classroom.
Okay.
So I think I think the distinction between 20 and 21, an average of 20 and an average of 21 is, I mean, it's another student,
Right.
but it's not going from 21 to 26. That's why we took a very minimal estimate here in terms of the number of slots we're opening up.
I was going from the 18 to the 21, but still 23.
Yeah, this year it's going right. So making that distinction, we are going from 18 this year to 21 plus the reduction of para support.
Okay. That's my only question.
Yep.
Andrew? Anything? All right, seeing no further discussion, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous?
School calendar, I brought the school calendar back to you because we have a couple changes. We've had a couple requested changes and then a mistake made by the administration. We'll start with the requested change is the middle high school staff has requested that we move parent-teacher conferences, so the half day in March from March 7th to March 8th. And then they've also requested that we move the half day in May from May 11th to May 4th. Ultimately, that has been, the May 11th to May 4th is just the prom location they want to have next year. That May half day is always prom. They can't get the location they'd like to get on the 11th. It's just not there, but it is available on the 4th. So they asked if they could maintain their location if we move the date to the 4th. The 7th to the 8th, I believe, I'm just going to pull up the calendar, is a Wednesday to a Thursday. So it was just a preference of having parent conferences on a Thursday night versus a Wednesday night for staff, and I said we could support that. The third change is, this was the mistake, in the teacher's contract it states that Good Friday will be a half day of school for all employees. So since the contract states that it will be a day of school, we have to have a half day of school on Good Friday. So that was not in the calendar, but it is now. So the changes here are March 7th to March 8th for middle high school half day for parent conferences, May 11th to May 4th for middle high school for prom, and then bringing back the half day on Good Friday because we're contractually obligated to do so.
I take a motion.
Make a motion to approve the handbook changes for 2017, 2018. Calendar changes.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous?
Ruby, I might need a little support on this one. Request for recycling of everyday math textbooks. So we've been in the process of cleaning out some storage at the elementary school. Specifically, there is a Meredith.
You go.
Oh, sorry. So right now, there's actually a portable on the end of one of the buildings. That portable needs to come down as part of the construction process, and that's going to happen over the summer. There was a lot of things in that portable that were, in essence, extra materials that were not being used. They're not being used. One of them was some everyday math manuals, which would be considered textbooks. So there's a request to recycle 48 teacher kits of everyday math manuals from the 2011 Common Core Standards version, which has been updated. We have all new manuals. So we just need a vote to approve the disposal of these textbooks. And my question, I believe the committee might have questions that I may not be able to answer. They may not. They might just say fine. So
I'll make a motion to approve the disposal of the everyday math manuals for 2011.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions at all for Ruby?
Would any other district benefit from those kits, or are they too outdated?
Well, that's a good question. We've actually looked into that. We've actually tried to donate them, and people just haven't been, we don't have any takers. So we're still working on that because we actually prefer to give them to schools. I have sent out several emails. We really want to donate them to schools so that students can use them, but as Scott mentioned, that he's right, they're teacher resource manuals. So that's definitely the preferred option, and then the second one is to recycle them, and I'm having trouble getting any takers to take those as well, so we may end up having to dispose of them.
Is there a cost to that?
To recycle them, no. To put them in the dumpster to throw them out,
Okay.
no.
It's math. It's never outdated.
Say no takers on math.
Never. But it's not organized and suited to where they need it to be these days. And
Right.
it's just the teacher material, so there's nothing for the students to go along with it. So it's kind of makes it useless.
Yeah.
To an extent.
You want to do a little late night reading?
No. I worked with everyday math for a very long time. Thank you. All those in favor of recycling, or at least trying to find some route to remove those textbooks?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous.
Okay, thanks. And then last one, we just have a field trip request for Martha's Vineyard for the 9th grade class. This is an annual trip that they take on a Saturday for June 10th.
I'll make a motion to approve the field trip for Martha's Vineyard on 6/10/17 for grade 9.
Motion made and seconded. Did you second it?
I'll second it.
Someone
Gina,
second.
someone.
Gina seconded that one.
Not to be a pain, Scott, but I'm just curious. Educational value of the trip to Martha's Vineyard?
This is a Saturday, so it's Saturday.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, this is not a school day. It's a Saturday, and it's just it's team building for the 9th grade class. It's actually a traditional trip that they've taken probably for the past at least 5 or 6 years.
We're going to have them take the math.
Yeah, there you go.
Create a merge.
That's not recycling. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. Reports from the school committee.
Welcome, Stephanie, to
Stephanie.
the committee. And hopefully you will enjoy your stay with us. And I don't know, hopefully we'll have a building.
Enthusiasm right there, I tell you.
Well, it's tough sometimes, you know. But I just think hopefully we'll have a building committee meeting sometime soon, so we can have some updated conversation about that. Maybe that would be nice. But other than that, looking forward to working with everybody again. Hopefully we'll have a great year.
I just welcome to Stephanie. Congratulations to Andrew. We're a motley crew, but nonetheless, we're a pleasant crew. Thank you.
I agree. I'll echo the same sentiments to both of you. Hopefully this will be another great year. My second year. I'm not the newbie anymore.
Oh, you're not the recording secretary
I'm
anymore.
not, well, no, I haven't been for a while. Just as a community update, I know it's short notice for anybody watching TV or sees this on a rerun, but tomorrow, May 9th, the Carver Music Boosters they're holding their high school spring concert and spring raffle baskets May 9th from 7 to 9 at the high school, right?
Yep.
The auditorium.
Yep.
The tickets are $3 with a $15 cap for per family. If anybody can get out to help support them, I'm sure they'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So, lastly, we have to move to executive session.
I'll make a motion to move to executive session.
Not to return. Yep, not to return to.
Not to return to.
Second.
Motion made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.